what the hell is going on with the lawsuit situation, and what is up with $260 million civil suits? $260 million in the Derek Dixon versus Tyler Perry civil lawsuit, the alleged sexual harassment and assault. And then we've also got a new one from a highly unlikely source. Wendy Williams' ex-husband, Kevin Hunter, files a $260 million suit regarding her conservatorship and all that stuff. And he had to do it for her because no one else could stand up for her. So apparently that's, so I'm not sure where this number is coming from, where they're calculating and the attorneys are coming up with, I think 250, 260 is a reasonable amount. I mean, it's getting insane. It's really crazy. But then we also have another suit from a hype man, former hype man for Fat Joe, aka Don Cartagena, for $20 million, which is also starting to turn out to look like another salacious, rapper, ex-rapper / whatever, sort of like Diddy type of case where this guy, apparently Joe, had a thing for young women, and there's all sorts of he liked to watch and do. Anyway, we're going to get into it. Time to talk. I want to talk about that. We'll talk about quick Diddy stuff really quick because that tends to be the main thing nowadays. So let's get into that. Time to talk. Subscribe if you're not yet subscribed, and let's get into this. So wrapping up the Diddy stuff, yesterday was Juneteenth, this fake holiday, which for some strange reason black people think is like this major moment in history that was good for us. It was not. The only possible thing I can take out of that as far as being, well, let's just keep it positive, you got a day off. Good for you. Okay, hope you enjoyed that. So yesterday, court was closed. Today, Brendan Paul, the drug mule, is set to testify. He's under immunity, of course. Now, there's been delayed with Brendan Paul at least, I think, 2 or 3 times now where he was supposed to testify and he kept getting delayed. I think that has to do with the defense or the prosecution or whoever it is taking their time to figure out how he's going to tailor his responses and what he's going to say and not say, because if he perjures himself or he says something not quite accurate, then he can lose his immunity. So I think that came down to, hey, what are you going to say? What are you not going to say? Kind of grooming him to make sure everything goes the right way. The prosecution is set to wrap up their case today or Monday. We'll see what happens. And then the defense is going to start. And the defense is looking to take probably anywhere from 2 to 5 days to do their thing. Still unsure whether or not Christina Coram, is actually going to make it on the stand or where she lies in this whole thing. We're not sure. Brendan Paul's testimony today could possibly indicate that. We might get a more sense of where this is going, but who knows? I believe that everyone is on the edge of their seat believing that the Brendan Paul testimony today is going to provide much more of the nail in the coffin for RICO and drug trafficking, specifically drug trafficking, which I'm just not down with. I don't see that. I've said it before. I've said it several times. I've been saying it for a while. This is the guy who popped some pills and did drugs with the girls he was freaking off with and the stuff that he was doing. And that's it. It's not a distribution. It's not an enterprise of I'm going to package drugs, sell them across state lines or within state lines, and I'm redistributing things for you to. That's not the case. Having your own personal recreational supply of drugs for your own freak offs and your own things with your women, your ladies, your freaks that you were doing all this stuff with, and giving them some Molly. Hey, let's do all. That's not a case for drug trafficking. So I will reiterate that probably several more times throughout this until we get a verdict on this. But anyway, that's what's happening with Brendan Paul today. Now, what I really want to get... Oh, and also, I believe the judge is probably going to be finding out whether or not Diddy wants to take the stand in his own defense. Chances of that happening are probably slim to none. The last thing they need to do is put that man on the stand because he's going to just sound like a moron, and it's not going to help his case. We also had that leaked audio yesterday of Cassie when she, this was played for them back for the jury back May 16th last month. But the leaked audio came out, I believe, yesterday or sometime. So I played that on the channel here and I did a video talking about that and how she sounds. I still find it interesting that many people are backing her, oh, it just sounds like somebody who was just, someone who was upset, so she didn't mean it, and it was just someone who was upset and fearful. It shows that she was fearful of having her tapes leaked or whatever it was, right? Because she's talking to this guy, Sujit, a friend of hers, supposedly, who claimed that he saw one of her freak-offs on a video. And I'm going to push back on that and simply say, no, it doesn't sound like that. It doesn't sound like that. This is a woman who clearly has a temper, has anger issues, just like whatever. She was in a toxic relationship with Diddy, who had the same toxic anger issues, which is why it probably lasted 10, 11 years. It wasn't just because she was an innocent victim and she was under Stockholm syndrome and the psychology of being with her tormentor and being bound to him. When you listen to this, you hear a person who not only does she say, kill you, cut you up, bury you, but she also emphasizes the fact that she's got the means to do it. In other words, Diddy, her boyfriend, has the means, has the financial resources and the powers behind the scenes to make you disappear. That's not a idle sort of like in the moment, like I will kill you, I'll mess you up. That's not that. She laid out detail and also flexed on him and made it clear that she has the means to do it. So I'm not taking that as lightly as everyone else is taking it. I don't buy a lot of shit that Cassie came up with. But anyway, another story. Let's get into this $260 million lawsuit that apparently Wendy Williams' ex-husband has filed on her behalf. But let's get into this. Wendy Williams' ex-husband Kevin Hunter filed a $250 million lawsuit to end her guardianship in federal court because his son felt threatened by a New York State judge in his mother's conservatorship case, a source told Page Six. Williams' ex-husband, Hunter, 52, stepped in to file the lawsuit Tuesday in New York in place of his son, who would be next of kin, because, quote, there's nobody else, end quote, that can do it for the TV and radio icon. Quote, we know he's not a great husband. He cheated, had a baby, but there's nobody else. It's not a money grab. He's not suing for money for him. He's suing so Wendy can get compensation. The source close to the situation told Page Six. Hilarious. I'm not doing it for me. I don't need anything. I'm just the ex-husband. $260 million is for Wendy. She deserves it. That's bullshit, right? This is just bullshit. I think that was the funniest thing I saw in the last few weeks was this guy filing a lawsuit to get her out of her conservatorship and that whole thing. We'll see where this goes. From what I understand, she wants nothing to do with it. She knew about it, but I don't think she wants anything to do with it or anything to do with him. And that's what she told TMZ when she was talking on the phone. I think it was some audio of her talking to Harvey Levin about it. And, he's basically calling him a grub and he's simply just looking for a money grab. That's probably what it is. Now, the other thing to talk about is the situation with Fat Joe. This one I really find interesting. This is, first of all, Fat Joe, he's being sued for $20 million. Is he even worth $20 million? I mean, first of all, what is the relevancy of Fat Joe? How is he still relevant? I mean, the penciled in beard thing, the different shades of Just for Men dye, I guess they run out some of the right color sometimes, but he still goes with it and just pencils it all in and does this thing. Anyway, Fat Joe is sued for $20 million by a former hype man. We'll get into what a hype man is in a minute in case you don't know. In an explosive complaint, alleges rapper engaged in sex acts with minors and coerced him into more than 4,000 sexual acts to maintain his standing. Oh man, it's Friday. Fat Joe's former hype man Terrence T.A. Dixon has filed an explosive lawsuit in federal court against the rapper on Thursday. Dixon is alleging that his former boss, whose real name is Joseph Antonio Cartagena, the Don Cartagena, engaged in, quote, coercive labor exploitation, financial fraud, sexual manipulation, violent intimidation, and psychological coercion, end quote. Dixon adds that the hip-hop star behind such chart toppers as What's Love, wasn't that an Ashanti song? Is that a Fat Joe or an Ashanti song? I don't know. Got rich and famous while he and his associates deliberately suppressed, silenced, and erased Dixon's substantial creative, artistic, and commercial contributions, which were foundational to Fat Joe's professional success and personal brand. He is seeking up to $20 million in damage. First of all, this is bullshit right there, because first of all, Fat Joe's professional success and personal brand was only actually made anything because of the late, great Big Pun, right? Without Big Pun, Fat Joe does not really have anything and would not have lasted this long. How he has remained relevant, I'm completely baffled by. I just don't see, I don't get it. But this guy's claiming, well, I had something to do with his success, so I want my money. And apparently he was just relegated to being the background guy, or I'm sorry, the hype man. Let's continue with this. A complaint filed in the U.S. District Court, Southern District of New York, details so many disturbing claims about Fat Joe's alleged sexual relations with women, including minors, that it contains a trigger warning on the first page of the 157-page document. For 16 years, Dixon served as Fat Joe's so-called hype man, a common figure in hip-hop who supports the artist by energizing the crowd and enhancing the overall performance. That's the guy on the stage that's running around, shaking his fist and making you look, trying to get everyone excited about a aging, old, totally irrelevant rapper. He also contributed as a lyricist and background vocalist on such hits as Congratulations, Ice Cream, and Money Over Biatches. According to the complaint, he had an unrivaled vantage point to observe the rapper's offstage lifestyle and behavior. I just want to make a side note here that on Ice Cream and Money Over Biatches, Dixon actually came up with the title for Ice Cream and Money Over Biatches. Yeah, that was his contribution. I'm just kidding. Anyway, Dixon is represented by Tyrone Blackburn. It's also a guy who did a case, the Little Rod case when it came to Diddy. I don't want to get into that right now, but I want to get into more of the complaint here against Joey. Dixon states in the complaint that Fat Joe forced him into, quote, humiliating situations, including sex acts performed under duress and surveillance, accompanied by threats of abandonment in foreign countries if he refused compliance. By his own estimation, Dixon states that in the suit that, quote, he was coerced into more than 4,000 sexual acts to maintain his standing within the enterprise. Okay, so basically what he's saying, again, going down the salacious Diddy sort of thing here, right? Comparison, that Joe made him perform acts with women in front of him. That's what that sounds like to me, right? The hype man who was part of the whole gang, the whole Don Carnegie gang, whatever they call that. I don't know what they call it. There's a name for it, I guess, whatever it's called. He was hanging out with the women and Joe was like, hey, you got to get down, but you got to do it in front of me. Now, again, not Joe. I'm not judging Joe or Diddy's sexual proclivities, what they're into, what they like, what their preferences are. It's a little creepy to me. I mean, I'm sure some guys would just be like, yeah, no, I want to get with those two women, but can I do it by myself in another room somewhere? Do you have to be standing there in the corner watching me, Joe? Right? Probably what this whole thing, what he's alleging here, which, again, sounds creepy to some people, and it is what it is, but it is, I mean, this is just going down that same road as Diddy, where it's coercion. I'm going to leave you here if you don't do X, Y, Z. I want to watch. I mean, it just gets really crazy. All right, let's continue. Most shockingly, the suit claims that Dixon personally witnessed Fat Joe engage in relations with children who were 15 and 16 years old, and lists 3 such Jane Does, including a 16-year-old Dominican girl in New York who, in exchange for cash, clothing, and payment of her cell phone bill, would perform mouth sex and oral and other stuff on the rapper. Minor 2 is a Caucasian female, and then there's another one, Minor 3. I don't even want to get into it. I'm not going to continue reading this. You can find out for yourself if you want the details on that. But there's alleged minors. And that, to me, is a sickening part of this whole thing, because I'm wondering when those minors, one of them is actually now married to a professional athlete, the suit claims, right? A professional athlete. Who that is, we don't know. Who this Jane Doe, we don't know. But I think it's going to be important to see if lawsuits are filed on behalf of them. When are they going to come out? Where's Tony Budsby for these 3, right? We all know that so far even from the Tyler Perry, the most recent, the Tyler Perry case with Derek Dixon suing this guy for $260 million, suing Tyler Perry, the text message exchanges and the photos and stuff like that and audio stuff, this stuff is all real and it's out there. And that's what really seals the fate for a lot of these people. We've moved into this territory where it's not just he say versus she say, and we don't find out till years later. Like, we're seeing up front the receipts. So I'm waiting to see what happens in the Fat Joe thing, like how many receipts are produced here regarding these, any kind of exchanges, any kind of receipts, text messages when it comes to hotels and things with these younger women. And I hope to God that they come forward, because really the minors are really the victims in a lot of this. And I was shocked to see that with the Diddy case, there's nothing when it comes to minors and all the allegations prior to this case, prior to his arrest, prior to them trying to get him on RICO and all this other stuff, that there was all this speculation about other celebrities and minors that were at these parties and the whole Ali Carter thing, which I did a whole video on in this channel. You should see that if you haven't seen it. But none of that happened in the Diddy case. The Don Carnegie thing, the Fat Joe case, looks like there's most of this is about minors, and then this guy complaining about the fact that he helped write some of the crappy music that Joe's put out, and he's had something to do with it, and he was also victimized because he was forced to have relations with women, and Joe made him do it. We'll see where this all goes. That guy's stuff, I mean, I care about, but at the same point, I think the more important part is going to be the minors, and wondering how that's going to snowball into something, and whether we're going to see some lawsuits coming from these young ladies. And I think they should. I really think they should. Let's see what happens. Anyway, time to talk. Wendy Williams, Fat Joe, Tyler Perry. It's the dominoes, the whole house of cards. Everything is just falling around us. The Diddy case continues. I'll keep you updated on that. We'll see what happens with Fat Joe. We'll see if there's any breaking news on that today. Any more things. We'll see what his response is. I don't think it's been a response from him yet, but we'll get into it. Time to Talk. Subscribe if you're not yet subscribed. Like the video on the way out. I really appreciate that, and I'll see you on the next Time to Talk. Peace.